You are here, in this moment, probably already at the end of your day. Perhaps you're already in bed. Perhaps you're preparing to sleep. And there is something you need to know about this exact moment. Something that science has discovered. Something that the greatest masters of manifestation have already taught, but that most people still haven't fully understood. There is a space between being awake and being asleep, a space where your conscious mind begins to relax, where your rational mind, that hemisphere of the brain that analyzes, that questions, that doubts, begins to fall asleep. And when that happens, something extraordinary occurs. The creative hemisphere, the one that imagines, that feels, that accesses infinite possibilities, gains power, gains space, gains voice. And it is in this space that true transformation happens. It is in this space that what you assume becomes your reality, because it is in this space that your subconscious is most receptive, most open, most available to receive new programming. And what you plant in this moment before sleep is what will grow in your life, consistently, naturally. Let me tell you a story you might recognize. You spend the entire day trying to change something. You think positive. You make affirmations. You visualize. But nothing changes. Why? Because your rational mind is active. It's analyzing. It's questioning. It's saying, this isn't real. This won't work. You're just imagining. And while your rational mind is in control, your subconscious mind cannot receive the new programming. It cannot access the new possibilities. But when you arrive in this space, in this moment before sleep, when your rational mind begins to relax, something different happens. Suddenly, you can feel. You can imagine with more clarity. You can access a sensation that what you desire is already real. And it is in this moment that the magic happens. It is in this moment that transformation begins. Neville Goddard, one of the greatest masters of manifestation, called this SATS, state akin to sleep. And he discovered that it is in this state that you have the greatest power to create your reality. Because it is in this state that you can assume, truly assume, that what you desire is already real. Not in the future. Now. And when you assume this, with clarity and with feeling, your subconscious accepts. It doesn't question. It doesn't analyze. It simply receives. And when it receives, it begins to create. It begins to reorganize your reality to correspond to what you assumed. Perhaps now you begin to perceive what science has discovered about this, because it's not just philosophy. It's neuroscience. It's biology. It's quantum physics. During the day, your brain operates primarily through the left hemisphere, that guard that analyzes, that questions, that needs evidence. And this guard is important. It's necessary. But it's also limiting, because it needs proof. It needs logic. And when you try to manifest something new, something that doesn't yet exist in your physical reality, it resists. It says, this doesn't make sense. This isn't possible. You don't have evidence of this. And while it's watching, your subconscious mind cannot access the new possibilities. But when you enter this space, this state akin to sleep, the guard falls asleep. And when it falls asleep, the door opens. Your right hemisphere, the creative one, gains space, gains power. And it is this hemisphere that accesses infinite possibilities. It is this hemisphere that doesn't need evidence. It is this hemisphere that simply feels. And when you feel, truly feel, that something is already real, your subconscious receives this information as truth. And when it receives as truth, it begins to create. It begins to reorganize your reality. It begins to attract circumstances, people, opportunities that correspond to what you assumed. I know a woman who spent years trying to manifest a loving relationship. She did visualizations during the day. She made affirmations. She did everything the book said. But nothing happened. Until she discovered the power of the night. Until she began to use this space, this moment before sleep, to assume that she was already in a loving relationship. Not in the future. Now. She didn't visualize someone specific. She simply felt. Felt what it would be like to feel loved. Felt what it would be like to feel safe. Felt what it would be like to feel complete. And she did this every night, in this state akin to sleep. And do you know what happened? In 3 weeks, she met someone. Someone who wasn't looking. Someone who simply appeared in her life. And when she told me this, she said, "It wasn't magic. It was science. I simply changed the moment when I was programming my mind. And when I changed the moment, I changed the results." Another example. A man who wanted to change his financial situation. He tried everything during the day. He visualized, he made affirmations. But his rational mind always interfered, always said, "You don't have money. You don't have opportunities. This won't work." And while his rational mind was in control, nothing changed, until he began to use this space of the night. Before sleep, he entered this state akin to sleep. And in this state, he assumed he already had abundance. He didn't think about it. He felt. Felt the sensation of having enough money. Felt the sensation of financial security. Felt the sensation of freedom. And he did this every night. And in less than 2 months, he received a job offer that tripled his income. And when he told me, he said, "I didn't do anything different during the day. I just changed what I did before sleep. And when I changed what I did before sleep, my reality changed." These are not isolated cases. They are patterns. They are laws. Because when you access this space, this state akin to sleep, you are accessing your subconscious directly. And your subconscious doesn't question. It doesn't analyze. It simply receives. And when it receives, it creates. Naturally. Inevitably. Neville Goddard had a specific technique for this. He called it imaginal act. And this is how it works. Before sleep, you find a comfortable position. You close your eyes, and you breathe deeply a few times. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need to do anything complicated. You simply relax. And as you relax, you enter this space. That space between being awake and being asleep. And when you're in this space, you imagine a scene. Not a vague scene. A specific scene. A scene that can only be true if what you desire has already been realized. For example, if you want to manifest prosperity, you imagine something specific. Perhaps you're opening your bank account and seeing the exact amount you want. Perhaps you're receiving a payment. Perhaps you're having a conversation about an opportunity that brought that income. The scene doesn't matter as much as the feeling, because it's the feeling that programs your subconscious. So, while you imagine this scene, you feel what it would be like if this were already real. You feel the security, you feel the gratitude, you feel the peace, and you maintain this feeling until you fall asleep. You don't need to do this for hours, just a few minutes, just enough to feel, truly feel, that it's already real, and then you fall asleep. And while you sleep, your subconscious works. It works to make real what you assumed. But here's what's important. You can't just think about this. You need to feel. Because your subconscious doesn't understand words. It understands feelings. It understands vibrations. It understands energy. So when you're in this state, you're not just imagining. You're feeling. You're assuming. You're becoming the person who already has what you desire. And when you become, your reality changes. Consistently. Perhaps you've already been through this. How many times have you spent the entire day trying to change something and nothing happened? How many times have you made affirmations, visualizations, during the day and felt it wasn't working? And now, think about it. Perhaps the problem wasn't what you were doing. Perhaps the problem was when you were doing it. Another powerful technique that Neville taught is revision. And this is how it works. Before sleep, you review your day. But not in the way you normally would. You review it in the way you wished it had happened. If something happened during the day that isn't aligned with what you want to manifest, you revise it. In your imagination, you replay the scene. But this time, you replay it in the way you wished it had happened. If someone said something that triggered you, you revise it. In your imagination, you hear them saying something supportive, something that lifts you, something that strengthens you, and you feel the emotion of this revised version. You feel as if this really happened. And when you do this, in this state akin to sleep, your subconscious cannot distinguish the difference. It simply receives the revised version as truth. And when it receives as truth, it begins to create more experiences like this. Because your subconscious works based on the memories you have. And if you can change the memories through revision, you can change what your subconscious creates in the future. I know a person who used this revision technique every night for a month. She had a pattern of feeling rejected. Whenever someone didn't respond to a message or didn't include her in a plan, she felt rejected, and this created more experiences of rejection until she began to revise. Every night, before sleep, she revised any experience from the day that made her feel rejected. In her imagination, she revised these experiences in a way that made her feel included, feel loved, feel valued. And she did this in this state, akin to sleep. And do you know what happened? In a month, the experiences of rejection began to decrease, and more experiences of inclusion began to appear, of connection, of love. And when she told me, she said, "I didn't change anything in my behavior during the day. I just changed what I did before sleep. And when I changed what I did before sleep, my reality changed." This isn't coincidence, it's science. Because when you revise an experience in this state akin to sleep, you're reprogramming your subconscious. You're telling it, this is how my reality works now. And when you say this, consistently, every night, your subconscious begins to create more experiences that correspond to what you revised, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what really happened and what you revised. It simply works based on the information you give it. And if you consistently give it information that your reality works in a certain way, it begins to create more experiences in that way. Perhaps you've already tried to revise something during the day, and perhaps you felt it didn't work completely. Because during the day, the guard is still awake. It can say, "But this didn't happen like this. You're just imagining. You're denying reality." And while it's watching, revision doesn't work completely. But at night, when the guard falls asleep, the door opens, and your creative mind can work freely. And when it works freely, reprogramming happens. Deeply. Consistently. Another powerful thing you can do in this space of the night is assume a new identity. Because identity is what creates reality. And when you assume a new identity in this state akin to sleep, your subconscious accepts. It doesn't question. It simply receives. And when it receives, it begins to create behaviors, thoughts, actions that correspond to that identity. Because identity is what you are. And what you are determines what you do. And what you do determines what you have. Let me give you a practical example. If you want to become someone who attracts prosperity easily, you don't wait to have prosperity to become that person. You become that person now. And the best way to do this is in this space of the night. Before sleep, you enter this state akin to sleep. And in this state, you assume you're already someone who attracts prosperity easily. You don't think about it. You feel. You feel what it would be like to be that person. You feel the security. You feel the confidence. You feel the abundance. And you maintain this feeling until you fall asleep. And when you do this, consistently, Every night, your subconscious begins to accept this identity. And when it accepts, it begins to create behaviors that correspond to this identity. You begin to make different decisions. You begin to see opportunities you didn't see before. You begin to attract circumstances that correspond to that identity. Because identity creates reality. I know a person who used this to become someone who exercises regularly. She had tried everything during the day. She had forced herself. She had disciplined herself. But nothing worked, until she began to use this space of the night. Before sleep, she assumed she was already someone who exercises regularly. She didn't think about it. She felt what it would be like to be that person, felt the energy, felt the vitality, felt the strength. And she did this every night. And in 2 weeks, she began to exercise naturally, without effort, without forced discipline, just naturally. Because she had assumed the identity. And when you assume the identity, actions follow naturally. But here's what's crucial. You need to do this consistently. Because identity change doesn't happen in one night. It happens through repetition, through consistency, through assuming every night that you're already that person. And when you do this consistently, your subconscious begins to accept. And when it accepts, your reality changes. Another powerful thing you can do in this space is work with affirmations. But not empty affirmations. Affirmations with feeling. Louise Hay discovered this. She realized that affirmations only work when they're infused with emotion. And the best time to do this is in this space of the night. Before sleep, you enter this state akin to sleep. And in this state, you repeat an affirmation, but not mechanically, with feeling, with emotion, with conviction. For example, if you want to manifest love, you say, I am loved, I am loved, I am loved. But you don't just say it. You feel. You feel what it would be like to be loved. You feel the security. You feel the connection. You feel the completeness. And you repeat this with feeling until you fall asleep. And when you do this, your subconscious receives. It receives not just the words, but the emotion. And when it receives the emotion, it begins to create. It begins to attract experiences that correspond to that emotion. Because emotion is the language of the subconscious. And when you speak its language, it responds. Perhaps you've already tried making affirmations during the day. And perhaps you felt they weren't working completely. Because during the day, the guard is still awake. It can say, but this isn't true. You're not loved. You're alone. And while it's watching, affirmations don't penetrate completely. But at night, when the guard falls asleep, the door opens, and affirmations penetrate directly into the subconscious. Deeply, consistently. But here's what's important. You don't need to do all these techniques every night. Choose one. Choose the one that resonates most with you. And do it consistently. Because consistency is more important than perfection. It's better to do one technique consistently every night than to try to do all techniques and not do any of them right. So, choose one. And commit. Commit to doing this every night before sleep, in this state akin to sleep. And when you do this consistently, transformation happens. And let me tell you something. You don't need to do this for hours, just a few minutes. Just enough to enter this state, assume what you desire, feel as if it's already real, and then fall asleep. Because it's while you sleep that your subconscious works. It's while you sleep that it reorganizes your reality. It's while you sleep that transformation happens. So, you don't need to stay awake for hours. Just a few minutes. Just enough to plant the seed. And then you fall asleep. And while you sleep, the seed grows. But here's what's crucial. You need to do this every night. Because change doesn't happen in one night. It happens through repetition, through consistency, through assuming every night that what you desire is already real. And when you do this consistently, your subconscious begins to accept. And when it accepts, your reality changes. Perhaps you've already been through this. You spend the entire day trying to control your reality, trying to force changes, trying to make it happen. But perhaps the problem isn't what you're doing. Perhaps the problem is when you're doing it. Because during the day, the guard is watching. It's analyzing. It's questioning. It's resisting. But at night, when the guard falls asleep, the door opens, and your creative mind gains power. And when your creative mind gains power, transformation happens. Naturally. Without effort. Without force. Just naturally. So tonight, before sleep, experiment. Enter this space. That space between being awake and being asleep. And in this space, assume. Assume that what you desire is already real. Not in the future. Now. And feel. Feel what it would be like if this were already real. And then fall asleep. And while you sleep, your subconscious will work. It will work to make real what you assumed. Because what you assume before sleep becomes your reality. And now you know how to do this. Now you know when to do this. And now you know why this works. So, tonight, experiment. And every night after that, continue. Because it's through consistency that transformation happens. It's through repetition that reality changes. And it's through this space, this power of the night, that you access the greatest power of creation that exists. The power of your subconscious. The power of your creative mind. The power to assume and make real. Everything you experienced here is complete on its own. These ideas, these moments of awareness, and this state you are entering now, do not depend on anything else. For those who feel called to organize these practices more clearly, to return to them day by day with intention and consistency, I've created a simple, practical guide. It brings together the techniques you explored here in a calm, structured way, so you can integrate them naturally into your daily life. You'll find it through the link in the pinned comment below, offered at a symbolic value that helps support this work and allows this content to continue. Whether you choose to access it or not, know this. Tonight, something has already shifted. You are not the same person who began listening. And as you move into rest, allow this new awareness to settle quietly within you. Thank you for being here. I hope this stayed with you. See you in the next video.